Hello and welcome to Gibson's Caring Corner. I'm Tracey Gibson.
And I'm Creighton Gibson.
And we are glad you joined us today. Our focus today is going to be on the condition of diabetes. Creighton, you would think we would be experts at this.
We're getting there.
So what is diabetes? Diabetes does affect your blood sugar that is running through your body. So every time you eat a carbohydrate or a fruit or something sweet, that blood sugar goes into your body, and your pancreas helps provide the insulin to counteract that sugar. So the pancreas is very important, and that insulin is very important for everyone. So the pancreas either produces too much insulin or not enough. And so we're going to talk about those differences and how, as a person, as a care provider, that you can interact with yourself or someone and that care for someone with diabetes. Yeah. So type 1 diabetes, only about 5% of the population have that. And it is usually hereditary. So I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic at the age of 14. And I had a severe case of the flu. And this hospitalization from the flu ended up attacking my pancreas. And that started my journey on being a type 1 diabetic. That I can't say was fun, but the consequences of being a diabetic in today's world versus 100 years ago, I would have had to have starved myself to death and drank coffee to stimulate myself to be able to think and move and breathe, pretty much. That was the way you were treated, because they had no way for you to actually function and live if you were diagnosed with the disease. So I am fortunate of all the technology that there is now and my ability to be as normal as possible as far as diabetes is concerned anyway. So with that being said, Creighton, what is another type of diabetes?
All right, so type 2 diabetes, which is the most common form of diabetes, occurs when the body does not use insulin properly. This is called insulin resistance. At first, the pancreas makes extra insulin to make up for it, but over time, the pancreas can't keep up, and it can't make enough insulin to keep an individual's blood glucose at a normal level.
A lot of times when people have an overweight problem, that they develop type 2 diabetes, and then they have to take some medications. I believe metformin is a very common type 2 diabetic medication. And then if they were to lose all the weight and get to their normal size, then a lot of times they no longer have the disease.
So the pancreas can keep up.
Yeah, because the pancreas can keep up. So that's pretty cool. If there was a way I could do something, I've even had dreams of like being shot, getting electrocuted by lightning, and all of a sudden my pancreas would work again. It's not going to happen. So that type 1 diabetics are type 1 diabetics for life. Type 2 diabetics sometimes can have some resolutions to where they can
depending on their lifestyle changes.
That they can get back to normal. And then some people, whenever they're pregnant, they have diabetes, but hopefully it's just while they're pregnant and then it goes away. But unfortunately, sometimes they stay a diabetic.
Which is called gestational diabetes.
Yes, gestational diabetes it is. So now we're going to talk about common symptoms. So, what did it look like whenever, they were trying to figure out what was going on with me as far as a type 1 diabetic? So common symptoms are frequent urination. They are mood swings. You can get really irritable whenever your sugar's really high. You can even smell like you're drunk because the sugar in the body, whenever it gets a certain level, it can give an odor that, we even have law enforcement arrest people because they acted drunk, they looked drunk, but their sugar was too high. And even with your sugar that too high, you shouldn't be driving if it is that high. So it is important that that's kept proper. So you will have an extreme, unusual thirst. It'll be like, I have got to have something to drink. I cannot, and I have to have it right now. And so that is a very, very common thing. Unusual weight loss, if you do not detect that you're a diabetic and all of a sudden someone is losing just lots of weight, that is a key sign that if you're not doing anything differently and all of a sudden you're losing weight, that something may be going on, and it's definitely one of the symptoms. And then extreme hunger. Glucose-starved cells may also signal the body for more food, thus increasing your appetite. So it seems strange, but I have had that before. My sugar be too high, already hitting 300 and trying to get it back down, and I was still hungry and I wanted to eat. So that is really just a symptom that your body is just not telling you the truth. So and that you have to fight it off. All right, so Creighton, how about type 2 diabetes?
So type 2 sometimes have other less common symptoms, which may include frequent infections, blurred vision, cuts and bruises that are slow to heal, reoccurring skin, gum, or bladder infections, tingling and numbness in the hands or feet. Type 2 diabetes have a gradual onset, and people are often not aware until they have it. Nerve damage can happen for years before the diagnosis.
So next we're going to talk about the severe symptoms. We talked about very high and a little, and we're going to talk about very low. So hypoglycemia, that is when your sugar just drops out. About 80 is normal, 80 to 100, that's normal. But whenever it starts slowly going down and then hitting those 60s, 50s, 40s, some of the things that happen is that you can get really shaky. You can start sweating for no reason. You can get to a point where you can't talk, you can't think, you're kind of frozen. Rapid, fast heartbeat. You might have thought it was too much coffee, but you need to check your sugar, all right? Sleepiness, you get really tired and sleepy. Tingling or numbness in the lips or tongue. Headaches, fatigue, anger, stubbornness or sadness, lack of coordination, crying out, seizures, and unconsciousness. And I've had these symptoms. So as a diabetic, I have gone into a diabetic coma. So what that means is your sugar just goes so low, you become unconscious, and you can't wake up. So Creighton has had to help me before in a situation like that. And Creighton, what's it like? Because for me, I didn't know any different. I can't remember I was in a coma. I had no clue. It was just kind of like another day getting a good nap. So Creighton, but what's it really like for a loved one? Yeah.
Been years ago, but in Tracy's case, before her insulin pump, she took shots, and we went from 1 shot to 2 up to, we were doing 6 a day. Her lows would be at 2:30 in the mornings, and her highs would be 2:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon.
As far as the time, not the numbers.
And the time. And so it just so happened in her case, we had a little Cocker Spaniel, Sparky, and Sparky woke me up at 2 in the morning, and I reached over and touched Tracy, and very cold, clammy, could not get her to respond much to me. Checked her sugar, and it was like 23. So I had 2 choices: go ahead and call 911 or try to get peanut butter or orange juice or milk. I decided on milk and went down, got a glass cut up. I got her to sit up enough to where she would drink. And I figured, well, as long as she's drinking, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. When she gets where she won't respond, I'll call 911. So worked with her for about 45 minutes, and her sugar gradually comes back up. And then she she gets really, really cold after an episode like that. So I had to put her in the shower, but it's a scary thing. And I was fortunate enough that she responded with me, but had she not, 911 would have had to come, give her glucose, which would have run her sugar up, and then she'd had been working all day to get it back down. But it's not a fun process.
It is not. But for the diabetic, they really don't know what's happening.
Don't have a clue.
Because you can't remember. I can't remember that at all. I had a severe, and one other time as a teenager still living at home.
Yep.
My stepfather thought I was laying out of school, and I was sitting up in the bed, not laying down, sitting up. Mother at that time gave me an insulin shot and then went to work, and I did not get up to eat. So my sugar bottomed out, and my stepfather was saying, she won't go to school. She won't get up. She's just being defiant. She won't say anything.
Yep.
And mom said, tell her you're calling 911. And if she says nothing, call 911. So that's what happened. I said nothing. They called 911. And the glucose did the trick. They did still make me go to the hospital, but that was the last time somebody else gave me a shot.
Yep.
Because you can control your sugar.
Yep.
And you as a person need to do that instead of somebody else. So that's some tough stuff, but you can control what's happening if you study yourself well enough. So it did take a little bit of time for us to study me well enough to get it under great control. So now let's talk about hyperglycemia, really high blood sugars, and what occurs when that happens. So we mentioned it a little bit. So high emotions. Now, I can remember whenever I have high sugar. Low, I can't.
Oh, I remember
high.
them. Yep.
I get ill as a hornet. So whenever I start feeling grouchy and ill, and that's not my normal personality, I like to be nice and fun, and I like those things. But I start getting really irritable. I'm like, okay, I need to check my sugar.
Yep. Yep.
But being thirsty, fatigue, blurry vision, frequent urination. So those are the common side effects. And if you're a diabetic listening to this episode, you can grow old successfully.
Yes.
And not have the damages that diabetes causes if you can keep your sugar in control.
Yep. You're a prime example.
Control matters. Yeah, I have been a type 1 diabetic for 42 years, I believe now. 42.
Yep. A little longer than that, but that's close.
Yeah, 42. So with that being said, I should have eye damage. I should be blind. I should have macular degeneration. I should have hardly any feeling left in my legs due to neuropathy. My eye doctor says he has never had a diabetic with such clear eyes.
Yep.
There's no cloudiness, no signs of any diabetic damage, nothing.
And he comments on it every single time.
Staying in control of your sugar matters, and not to have fear if it just goes up one time, but know when it goes up to get it down. Yeah, I'm not trying to incite any fear whatsoever, but it's important. I want you to know that you can be as healthy as possible whenever you work at it.
And have a great quality of life.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that they won't let me do is fly an airplane. And that's good. That's good. But anyway. All right. Okay. So other complications of diabetes. Eye complications is very common.
Yes. Hearing loss.
And?
Foot problems. Nerve damage called neuropathy, which may cause pain but can also lessen the ability to feel pain. Heat, cold, resulting in foot injuries. And I am actually dealing with some neuropathy, and I've had it for years. Not bad, but it's noticeable. And the last couple years, it's been very noticeable at night. And actually, I'm starting treatments, red laser treatments, that is taking away about half of my neuropathy already, and I've had 2 weeks of it. So I'm excited about my quality of life and how I feel now. I can tell a big difference. Poor circulation, very dry skin, calluses, and ulcers on the feet. If neglected, ulcers can result in infections which may require amputation in some cases.
You can't ignore those things.
Now, my mother was diabetic for years, type 1, and didn't know. She had fallen arches in the bottom of her feet, and she had those ulcers she dealt with for 20 years before they did have to take one leg. So we've lived this.
Yes, and there are wound centers now that have chambers called bariatric chambers that can put pure oxygen into you whenever you're dealing with wounds like this that can heal you. So it's getting those orders soon enough at the right times to provide that healing. Know that there's things out there, that it's not just bandages and ointment, to heal and get rid of the bacteria. There are other things that you can do, and I just ask your doctor. Bariatric wound center, that is important. Okay, so infections. Yep, very careful when trimming or clipping toenails. Well, if you have neuropathy, you can't tell if you need to clip your toenails. You just need to keep them done because you're not going to have any pain in your feet because you don't feel the pain.
Right.
So,
can't feel it if you miss a toenail.
Go to a podiatrist, a foot doctor. Make sure your feet and nails are looked at on a regular basis and your nails are trimmed well.
Right. Very good. High blood pressure may increase heart attack risk, strokes, eye problems, kidney disease.
And high blood sugar can also overwork the kidneys. This is a common thing. So if your sugar stays too high, it overworks your kidneys, and at some point in time, your kidneys may fail.
Yep.
Then what does that? You can't live without your kidneys. So you'll kidney dialysis, and then a kidney transplant when the dialysis start working. So taking care of your blood sugars is important. Do not need kidneys. All right. So do not need a kidney replacement.
Right.
All right.
And then nerve damage such as autonomic neuropathy, which may affect the digestive system, nerves, urinary tract, heart, and blood vessels. So it affects everything, even what you don't see.
Yeah, whenever I was diagnosed as a diabetic in the early 80s, treatment was you went to a hospital for a week, you got daily education, videos, they just babied you and pampered you. And I came out knowing what it could look like whenever I didn't take care of myself and what it could look like whenever I did. I had a strong education at the diagnosis point. Thank you, Dr. Wilhide.
Yep.
And know that things now are more one-on-one, sitting across from somebody. You're not hospitalized. You get a goodie bag, watch videos, and hope that everybody involved watches the same and you're taken care of. So you have to do a lot of your own work now to understand diabetes if you are diagnosed. And I encourage you to go to the American Diabetes Association, download information, and learn what you can if you have the condition. Because there may be things that, if you are a diabetic, that you don't know because the education process is not the same as it used to be.
That's right.
All right. Anything else, Creighton? Of course,
No.
Everybody knows what you should do. You should exercise. You should eat the right foods. You should not eat sugar all the time. Right. And if you're a diabetic, the sugar is what is an absolute no-no. And anything that has oats on the end, sucralose, fructose, dextrose, all of those things, if you look on the back of it, just say for our favorite thing to put in our coffee is sugar-free chocolate from Coffee Mate.
Yeah.
I think the third item on the list is
Of ingredients
is some type of sugar.
Yep.
And I'm like, Creighton, no wonder my sugar keeps going up. But just drinking coffee, I kept thinking it shouldn't be going up, but it's that sugar-free Coffee Mate that is making it go up.
Sugar-free.
And it says sugar-free, but in the labeling, it hides it down in there. So now you need to look for that. Well, I hope you've learned something today. And if you are diabetic, you do need to see an endocrinologist, get set up on a right plan. Work with your general practitioner as well. And we wish you the best success in taking care of a loved one with diabetes. And last but not least, now I am on an insulin pump.
Yep.
I use Omnipod, love it because there is no more cords. So this is where my insulin is stored. And I have a little Dexcom 6 app that reads my blood sugars, and I can know at all times what my sugar is just by looking at my phone.
That's great.
So cool stuff now. Didn't have that whenever I was 14 years old. So again, I hope you've learned something today, and we wish you much success with your loved one with your diabetes.
Yep.
Have a great day. We're going to talk about the stories of Elizabeth Ann Rinehardt Gibson. Let's go back through time in Mooresville, North Carolina. Here we go. So now this is the one. This one is on Brother Bub when he was in about the 5th or 6th grade. He and some of the other boys were at recess at South Elementary School on Church Street in Mooresville, playing around the ball field close to Willow Valley Cemetery when they found a jar of white lightning. I hope you know what that is. All right. So, boys, as they were, they had a little nip or a big nip for Bub. When recess was over, everyone went back in class to resume studies. The teacher saw Bub lay his head on his desk and thought maybe he wasn't feeling too well, and she went on with her classwork. Then Bub leaned over and put his hand on a girl's leg, and ran it up her leg, and the girl must have squealed or made some kind of commotion to cause the teacher to run back to Bub's desk to take care of the problem. When she got there, she could smell the booze on his breath, and she carted him out of there pronto. The principal drove him home to report the incident to his parents. I wonder how many other times he found liquor near the playground. So John Blaine and Bill Maher would come to our house every morning as Alice and Jack would go to Mooresville Mills. John liked cornbread and onions so well we would eat Mother's leftovers of the night before if there was any left over. Bill Maher would always start yelling he wanted glasses, molasses, and bread. John would even eat red-hot pods of pepper sometimes with a biscuit. All the kids, grandkids, and everyone else called Dad Pop Rinehardt, except me. And he was Dad to me all those years. And they all called Mother Mom Rinehardt, except me. And she was Mother to me. Well, now about Mover, for as long as she lived for me. So how about? So I'm not quite certain. I'm going to say I apologize in that statement, but I believe it should have read, how about Mother, because that's what she was to me. Sorry about that. All right. So I came home from school one day, and we always went straight to the kitchen to eat whatever Mother had left over from dinner. There were fried apple pies, scrambled eggs, and pork brains in a biscuit. And always only one apiece of those, for they were a rarity for sure. Then the cold fritters Dad may have made that we could eat cold with molasses. I never knew you ate hot fritters. I only thought you ate them cold until I was married and found out how good they were when served hot. The one day I was going to tell you about when I got home was the day I didn't find anything that suited my fancy in particular. So I found the box of dry sulfur in the cabinet and thought about how a good whole bowl full of sulfur and molasses would taste. I mixed up a bowl of that good stuff and filled my face full. The next day I found I had hives almost all the way down my waist. Oh my goodness, what was happening to me? I ran to Alice's where Mother was and showed the rash to them. They stood there when Alice and Ruth said, "You know, if the rash makes a complete circle around her body, she'll die." Oh, good grief. What were they saying? That was me they were talking about. After explanation, I went out in the yard and the tears were just blinding me. I started running home thinking I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I thought, well, no one cares and I'll go down behind the old barn and die alone. No one cares. I had always heard Granddad say, just cart him off and throw him in a gully and let the buzzards eat him up. And I thought that would be as good as anything. I didn't die, but I really grieved until my hives cleared up, and they never did completely circle my body. Mother gave us sulfur and molasses as a spring and fall tonic to help keep us healthy, and only gave us each about a teaspoon at a time. Surely not a whole bowlful. That was absolutely unheard of. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's story about Elizabeth Ann Rinehardt Gibson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for watching Caring Corner. Be sure that you subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so that you will receive notifications for our weekly program. Don't forget to share this program to your social media platforms. If there's a question that you would like to ask, make sure to email it to caringcorner22@gmail.com. We hope to see you on the next episode of Caring Corner.